morning, good day, good night. See you later. No, good morning, hello. Anyway, wherever you are on the planet, it is really good to be with you live, or if you're listening to the recording, just being with you, historically speaking, as it were. Anyway, it is actually March 8th, 2017. I hope that's correct. And if you're listening in Australia or someplace like that, it's some other day. But anyway, that's what it is here right now in beautiful downtown Teasdale, Utah. So this is our weekly iAwake teleseminar. And great. There's just lots of really cool stuff going on. And we've been really busy with iAwake and, with other projects, and something really exciting I have to announce. I've been talking about it, but I'll say it again. On a Friday, this Friday, which will be the 12th, I guess, or the 10th, our iAwake, or rather the Journey of Integral Recovery podcast will be up and on iTunes and Google Play, I think. So it's been incredible. And this is something I've been trying to do for a long time. But sometimes, when the universe is ready, everything just kind of falls together. And I'm working with Dr. Bob Weathers, who is a dear friend and colleague, psychologist, college professor, university professor for many years. Brilliant guy, beautiful guy, jazz drummer, good friend, and with his own recovery story and vast experience, and just very bright and erudite and magnificent person. And then we have Doug Prater, who is somebody that I actually met through our teleseminar here. And he wrote me this incredible email, and I was like, geez, to answer this or to respond to all this, I'd have to write another book, which I probably should have done. But anyway, I said, well, why don't we just talk? And so we Skyped, and we had this great conversation. And it was so good. I said, well, why don't we just talk every week for see how this goes. And so we started doing that. And then when I was in one of my deep meditative trances, the information came through that I was supposed to do this, start really getting the message out, about iAwake, about integral recovery, sitting on all these things. They're really magnificent stuff we have here. And if you haven't read the book, just check it out. You can get an ebook or a hard copy on Amazon. And there's even talk about doing an audiobook now, so that'd be fun. And anyway, so I said, well, how are we going to find somebody to be the producer? Because I've tried to kind of look into that. And we took a little mini course on how to do a podcast, and it's like, just not my skill set so much. And so I said, well, let's see. Well, maybe we can send out an email to everybody and tell them what we need. And I said, well, what about Doug? And interesting enough, Doug went to the same university I did. We both got bachelor's degrees from Texas State, the beautiful university campus in San Marcos, Texas. And he studied sound engineering and video and all that stuff. And anyway, he's an author, integral practitioner, just extraordinary young man. And so we put together, and it's like when the band gets together, man, the juice happens. It's like, we just get into these flow states, and we've been recording a little ahead, and it's just been such an inspiration. And it's like, it's just like a karmic burden off my soul. It's like, again, one of my favorite quotes from JC, right? In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus said, if you keep that within you, inside of you, it will kill you. But if you bring it forth, it'll bring you life. So those essential gifts that we have to give, if we don't give them, we're going to get sick, spiritually, emotionally, even physically. So we got to give this stuff. And that's one of the things that iAwake is super good at, is helping us get down into the deepest portions of our being, where we discover heart wisdom, as Dr. Deborah Rossman calls it, or I've been calling it the wisdom voice, unity experience, infinite goodness and love and compassion, all the stuff the mystics been talking about, quite available there. And also got, and this is something that's like a big deal right now. It's going on throughout the corporate world and other places. And I think it was Doug, our producer for the Journey of Integral Recovery podcast. He turned me on to this book called Stealing Fire, which is, I can't remember the author's name right now. Do you remember the author's name, Pam? Stealing Fire book?
Yeah, Jamie Wheel and Stephen Kotler.
Right, Jamie Wheel and Stephen Kotler. And Kotler had written a book previously called The Rise of the Superman. And this is not some Nietzschean, twisted Nazi vision of... Anyway, it's actually talking about these amazing flow states that extreme athletes get into. So like these nutcases are these very brave people that jump off of skyscrapers in New York with little bat wings and fly between the buildings. I mean, it's really hairy stuff. When people do that, they get into these incredible states of just presence. And it's not even, like time just does weird things, and you can react and do stuff quicker than thought. And it's like, what's going to happen before it happens. And I think we've all experienced some of those states. And so anyway, that was the original book. And Stealing Fire is about, it's a Promethean myth, stealing fire from heaven. And in Greek mythology, Prometheus was the Titan. I think he was a demigod, or one of the early gods that got supplanted by Zeus and company. But anyway, he went to heaven and got fire and brought it down to humankind. And as we know, from archaeology and just evolutionary history, when we discovered how to use and harness fire and start fires and replicate it, it changed everything. It's like, man. So anyway, in the myth, he was punished by the gods and was chained to a rock. And then I think eagles would come and eat his liver every day. And the eagles were like, liver again? Oh God, anyway, but that's how it went. And then there was, I forget, it was Euripides, I think, wrote the story of Prometheus. It was one of the great, 5th century Athens dramatists. And there was the first story and the second story, and it was a trilogy, and the last one was called Prometheus Unbound. However, the second two of the trilogy, I think, were lost, so we never got to read those. But just the title says that somebody went and probably finally got Prometheus off the rocks, and much to the joy of the sick of liver eagles, probably. So anyway, so that's the story. So what the book is actually about, I got off on a tangent there, is these flow states, these amazing flow states. And they use an acronym in the book, which is, I think is great. And it's STER, STER. And when you go into these flow states, these creative states, whether it's in writing, teaching, talking, making love, playing tennis, sports, just almost any activity that requires, the human brain and our bodies, we go to these states. And the S in the STER, STER acronym stands for selflessness, okay? So when we're in these states, the constrictions of the ego seem to just loosen or go away for a while, so it's not your old ego self with all your neurotic thoughts and blah, 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 and your monkey mind. It's just, the rapid, channeling, repetitive, really kind of dusty, not very original thinking. You get into the selflessness, and the T stands for timelessness. So you feel there's, as all of us have experienced this before, whether you're writing or oftentimes when we're doing these teleseminars, it's an hour or 40 minutes, I think Pam says we have to do it in now. But, when it's really going, it feels like 10 minutes and it's been 40 minutes. Or when you're playing and jamming and musician, the hour, 2 hour jam feels like a half hour, and so on and so forth. So the time does very interesting things. And the E of the SDE is effortlessness. So when you're in these flow states, it's just like, it's all just happening through you. You're just plugged in to this higher source. And it's freaking amazing. It's what Maslow calls peak experiences. And it can also be called a spiritual experience or a mystical experience, because it really does have that quality of awe. It's like, I can't believe this is coming through me. I'm participating in this event. And it usually leaves one with deep gratitude and humility, because you really realize that something else is going on besides yourself. And so the effortlessness, and the R stands for richness. So when these experiences are going on, there's a richness of knowledge and teaching and wisdom that emerges. In other words, all kinds of information comes up because, they're saying what's really happening is the frontal cortex is shutting down. The thing that's constantly doing the linear and all the rushing thoughts comes, and all this information comes up, and you can, but not only is it just a massive information, but it comes in new, unique, organized form. The dots start to connect in really unique patterns. And so it's like, wow, and I'm reading a book by Arjuna Arda, who was the author of Translucent Revolution. Really, really good book. I really recommend. Well, this is, he sent me the first draft of a book he's working on. It's called Radical Brilliance. And he's basically talking about the same thing. He's talking about these flow states. And in the book, he says, let's see if I have it open here. I've been reading it. No. I don't know if I'm supposed to out all this stuff before it happens. But anyway, there we go. So in Radical Brilliance, he's, it's really nice. He gives some autobiographical information about him. And we've started to become kind of friends, especially him and Pam have been talking a lot recently, and about his life. And then he starts talking about, well, what does it mean to have a good life, to have a life that's really actualized, that's really satisfying, that's really happy, not necessarily, super rich financially or materially, but maybe so, and because of his, the circles he runs in, he says, I know a lot of people like that now. A lot of my friends are these really actualized people. And I think in humanistic psychology terms, when we say somebody's actualized, it means they've really become a really evolved, healthy version of themselves. Something happened, they worked on it, they did it. And then we talk about realize, it's more like a mystical realization of who and what you really are. Always have been at the deepest levels, right? But anyway, in this book, he goes and he says, what does it mean to be really happy? What is authentic, deep actualization and happiness? And I'm probably paraphrasing this, but I think you get the point. And he says, go take a break and write it down and then come back and we'll continue the book. And this is what I found from interviewing and talking to hundreds of people. And then I think about Arjuna's books, he does that. He not just him talking about his experience, he's really interviewing and referring to all the people that he's talked to about this. And this is what he came up with. So I think this is probably heart and soul of the book, but he says, having a sense of mission, okay? You know what you're here for. Being on fire. And this is starting to sound like flow states, yeah? And living your passion. Again, the JC quote, from the Gospel of Thomas, if you keep inside you don't live your passion and bring it out, it'll kill you, make you sick. Knowing what I'm here to do, and what? Doing it. Yes, and not just enough knowing, you've got to actually get out there and the rubber has to meet the road and really do the thing. Living authentically. Being real. Surrendering to something bigger than myself. Yeah. Name it God, name it higher power, name it spirit, name it mystery, name it whatever you want. A rose by any other name is still a rose. Feeling taken over by a creative force, which I can either resist and create suffering or flow with. Yeah, so there's a choicefulness, Sometimes it seems almost like, it's a choiceless choice, some people say. But you could actually say, no, I don't want to do this. We can say, the ego can get in the way and go, no, I don't want to do this. I'm way too messed up to channel this kind of beauty, But okay, well, where else is beauty going to come from? Because we're all a mess, on some level. So that resisting it, and sometimes maybe we have to do that, it's a mini or a major tragedy when we do. Feeling so excited by what I have to offer that I stop thinking about myself. Liberation from the ego. Brilliant. Feeling taken over by something greater than self-preoccupation. Isn't that nice? Yeah, so something bigger than yourself, some connection to some, creative mystery that's coming through and it is just the bomb. It is just the bomb. And, I've been on 9/11, ironically enough, it'll be 11 years that I've been doing this meditation practice pretty faithfully, almost every day for 11 years. And on Saturday, which I do sometimes, I said, well, I'm going to do a 2-hour meditation. Okay. And I used, for those of you who know iAwake, I started out, well, we've got a new things coming out. It's called Neuro-hacks, that to help you during portion of the day. We're still working on it, but we have the tracks done. Anyway, and the first one is called Digital Coffee. So it's kind of a stimulating thing. And then it's called Digital Energy. So I did those 2 tracks, 20 minutes. And then I did Profound Meditation Program, level 2.2 and 2.3. Another 40 minutes, 2 20-minute tracks. And then I ended up with Deep Delta, which is a 40-minute track. And, it seems to me, and I've been trying to stay committed to doing an hour of meditation. It was pretty good, but something kicked in, you need to do it more. And I found out that when I would kick into that maybe hour and 10-minute, hour and 20-minute, man, it would just go down to a whole nother level. And welcome to Samadhiville, just this deep, bliss and peace and openness and stillness and beauty, and sometimes, things will come up, and in Arjuna's book, he's talking about, he came from England and, educated at Oxford and all this stuff, had a, very kind of upper crusty English upbringing, and he was supposed to be a successful whatever, and he became a spiritual pilgrim and now a teacher and coach. But anyway, he says when he was a little kid, he won a poetry reading contest. Can you imagine having a poetry reading, not the poetry contest, but reading it? And he won. So his mom took him to, I don't know, a little cafe or something and bought him something to eat and a Coca-Cola. And it was like the first Coke he'd ever seen. And it was, kind of, England after in the 50s and stuff was pretty, pretty beat up from World War II and economically and all the bombing and whatnot. So it's the first time I ever saw a Coke. And he noticed how these bubbles were coming from the bottom, rising to the top. He said, where in the hell do these bubbles come from? And he said he drank the Coke, went home, got sick that night, and never had another Coke. But there was a spiritual lesson. He was a Pepsi man after that. No, he didn't. He should, and that's what seems to happen when we get into these flow states or meditative states. On Saturday, I was meditating. Some stuff came up, but it was rising like a bubble. It's a really nice physical way of looking at it, to the top and to my awareness, and it would be there, but not in a neurotic or even an intellectual way. It would rise, and then at the end, some kind of pain came up into my heart. I was able to just kind of be with that. And so these things, this type of wisdom, and he talks about that in the book also, you should have regular thoughts that are just recycled, channeled, not original, just blah, blah, the stuff that we get, garbage in, garbage out, all the info we get. But then there's another type of thought that comes from this very deep place that arises from the core of our beings. And yeah, so anyway, I was experiencing that, and I did, like I said, I did an hour and a half meditation on Saturday and 2 hours on Monday, and I got an hour and a half in on Tuesday, and only got an hour and a half in this morning. But anyway, I haven't quite made it to my goal of 2 hours, but I upped it by at least, a half hour more. And it's making a difference. I can feel it, and I'm really into this kind of flowy thing going on right now, in most of my work and stuff. And it's like, yeah. So it's not just flow states, but it's like what we have to do to achieve the flow states and how do we get there. And there's a lot of, technologies out there, neurofeedback, and a lot of stuff that we've become familiar with. Nice thing about iAwake, it's really portable and pretty affordable, and you can just, use it. But if you want to really get extraordinary efforts, if you really want to develop yourself to be able to go into the flow state so you can really find your sense of mission, who you are and what you are and what you're here to do, and live your passion and live authentically. It's not just gonna, it's not like ordering a pizza. You just gotta work hard and do it. Now we have these extraordinary tools. So I challenge any of you who, maybe not the beginners, but who have been doing this stuff for a while, ratchet it up, and see if you don't start experiencing about an hour and 10 minutes into it, or hour and 20 minutes into it, this just really, really deep state. And of course, the other thing is, it's not just the experiencing these deep, expanded, almost infinite experience of consciousness or states while you're meditating, but it's how you get through the day. I mean, how you feel the rest of your day, whether you're sleeping, or you're working, or you're just hanging out, or exercising, doing what you do. And it really, really does make a difference. And also, when you begin to meditate longer, you get used to it. It's like when you first begin, oh my God, 20 minutes? Are you kidding me? So difficult. But after a while, it's like, I'm just like, man, I'm in the zone. Yeah, okay, this is kind of what it feels like at 45 minutes. And there's some commonality. There seems to be kind of a general progression of these things. And generally after the hour, a little after the hour, it really, really gets deep. And so if all this stuff makes any sense to you, and you already have these tracks, when I did those tracks, I really got a feeling that this was a pretty important thing. We're probably going to bundle it, and release it as a product. And I'm kind of mixing some of the tracks. Like I really experiment and use these things, and I found this to be a very powerful combination. So if those of you who already purchase all the tracks, you don't have to buy this new thing that's coming out. But for those of you who don't have, or maybe have one or two of them, it'll probably be a lot cheaper than buying them individually. And, it might take a while because we have a lot of stuff in the pipeline right now. There's a lot of new products that we're working on coming out. So, yeah. So there it is, beloved. And those of you I really like, those I really love, and those I'm really trying to like. No, I'm kidding. I think you're all wonderful. So, Pam, do you have any announcements or anything you'd like to piggyback on with all this stuff?
Well, I'm excited that for Spiritual Technologies 2.0, we're going to be interviewing Arjuna Ardha tomorrow. Tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow. And also Dr. Jeffrey Martin, who is
super cool.
He is the Trans Tech Conference leader, along with Nicole Bradford, and the Finders course. We'll actually be getting out some information about the next upcoming Finders courses. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, and Finders course is basically teaching people using this transformative technology and a lot of practice and stuff, what it's like to have a stable state of kind of awakened mind. Okay, and Finder comes from the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus says, "Seek and ye shall find." So it's like basically saying, here it is, it's here. If that's important to you, and you get into this and work hard, and it's a lot of hard work, and it's not exactly free. It's pretty expensive, but that which costs you nothing is usually worth nothing. And so, yeah, if you feel called to it and everything, or at least listen to the interview, because he's an amazing guy. And we interviewed him last year, and then I met him at the Transformative Technology Conference, 2016, and I just liked his presence. And there was all this stuff going on, all these really brilliant people doing all these different stuff, and he was just like smiling and at peace the whole thing. It's like, I've seen a lot of people that are running these things that they're just super stressed out. I said, wow, so this guy's living the dream here. And then on Friday we're gonna Jonathan Robinson. And there's a lot of stuff going on in this kind of esoteric world of flow states, where LSD is back on the scene, right? I don't know if it ever left the scene, but people are using microdoses of LSD. That means really small amounts, like 50 milligrams or something like that, to induce these kinds of states. And I was talking to a friend of mine about it the other day, and he said, yeah, when I was in college, I just take these small little portions or little doses of LSD and go to class. I said, great. And when I had quite a bit of experience with psychedelics, you might be able to tell, right? But back well, I actually started in probably 1970, and I started messing with this stuff when I was like 13 or 14 years old, and way too young. And it was really kind of going down the tubes. And I had some powerful experiences, but I just had no context, no eldering, no support. A bunch of police chased me around because I had long hair, and being persecuted for being a hippie during the Vietnam War. And so anyway, I stopped that when I was 14. I got involved in this religious group, another story for another time. But, it was, anyway, it wasn't all great, but it did keep me sober during these very vulnerable years and got me out of that scene that I was in. Anyway, I went back later on when I was living in San Francisco and got into kind of the psychedelic studying as transformational tools. And really, I wasn't doing this, wasn't hedonistic stuff for me. It was a very a profound, attempt to transform and grow and to see if these substances, LSD and psilocybin and MDMA, et cetera, had any validity. They were actually good for something. And when I started it, I was reading books from the 60s and early 70s. That's all there was really available. And then all of a sudden, somewhere in the mid 80s, there's a renaissance happened as far as with these psychoactive substances, and new books started coming out. And I was also invited to be part of a circle that met in Marin at John Perry's house, who has passed on in the meantime, but he was a famous Jungian analyst and wrote a bunch of books. And I remember at his house, it's one of these, houses in Marin, if you've ever been there, all these little roads and impossible driveways, getting to these houses up in the hill. It was a very cool hill. And an anecdote for that, I was talking to John Perry. We're off in a corner one night, and people are getting together to discuss the use of these substances and people's experiences. And the Shulgins were there. I don't know if you know about them, but they were leading this whole thing. They passed away too. But anyway, a lot of people, and there were no drugs there because they were pretty sure there were federal agents that were trying to bust everybody. But it was just a discussion group. Anyway, I was talking to John Perry, and he said, well, here's my book. Oh, that's cool. And I looked at it. It was something about archetypes of the king or something, I remember. And I opened up, and the foreword was by Carl Jung. And I said, not the Carl Jung. He goes, I said, oh my gosh. And I was a grad student studying psychology at the time. So anyway, this guy had forwards in his book by Carl Jung. I thought it was pretty extraordinary. So I don't know where I'm going with that. But anyway, so I've been really involved in that. Then I left, and I stopped that. And I haven't, it's been well over 20 years since I did any of that. And because I was, I was introduced to the rave scene by people that knew kind of what I was doing. And I went and saw that. And I saw people abusing drugs, like MDMA. You can't do that stuff all the time. It crashes your serotonin and dopamine. It's a very speedy thing. And, it's got, it's especially if you use it a lot, it really drains you. You get really depressed. So you have 2 or 3 hours of ecstasy, followed by 3 or 4 days of depression. Is that worth it? So anyway, so we went to, Pam and I trotted off to the wilderness in Utah and started, vision questing in a more traditional way, and spending lots of time outside and kind of seeking meaning and purpose. And I was looking for my way, and I would do vision fast out in the wilderness by myself, and started on a different thing. But anyway, so this stuff is coming back online now, and Jonathan Robinson is really, really pretty much an expert in this stuff. And he's become a friend and colleague over the last couple of years. And he's done some interviews with me or conversation. Well, I've interviewed him actually, but we're going to be talking about psychedelics and what's going on now. I don't know where we're going to be talking about, but all that to say, I have some background in that, some knowledge of that. So I'm looking forward to going back and opening that particular chapter again and seeing what's there, for us to do. And hopefully, if we do start, and this stuff really starts coming, we'll learn something from the excesses, of my generation, or the baby boomers, and we didn't know. This stuff was all brand new, and our teachers, were a little whacked out themselves sometimes. So anyway, it's coming back around, and we'll just see. And one of the how am I doing in time? One of the problems with psychedelics that I discovered before I knew integral and even had a language for it is that, you'd go to heaven. Or me, it was about 50-50. Either I'd be in heaven or hell. I had at least as many bad trips as I had good trips, where I struggled with, the pain of the universe. But saying you did have a good experience, and generally when people are using this stuff wisely, like before it became illegal, there was a very few, if any, reported incidents of people having bad trips, bummers. That's where that came from. A lot of the language we use today came out of the drug subculture. Far out, all these words that came out of the psychedelic times. But you'd go there, but then you'd come down, and then you'd just be your same old messed up, trapped in your ego with all your, your messages, unhealthy stuff. And so, okay, all right. Well, I learned some stuff from it, I certainly did, but it's not causing, real transformation. It's not the alchemical thing that's really working through all my crap and turning me, into some higher level of stage of evolution, or a higher, better version of myself. And so, we went into the wilderness, and a long journey has taken us to where we are now, where I started to understand integral practice, and how, great, transformative states are really great, but they don't last. States are just come and go. So you need an ongoing interior practice to just day after day staying with it, that begins to really create a structure of the best version of yourself, and you begin to function at higher levels of wisdom and compassion and understanding and skillfulness and all this stuff. So anyway, so it's back, and we'll be talking about it. And I think it'll be, and Jonathan is a brilliant guy, and very interesting and very smart, and he's written best-selling books and all this stuff. So you might want to be around for that. And so we'll be speaking about that. And any questions, anything else?
I don't think so. I don't see any questions.
Okay.
I'm just trying to see if there's any other news we ought to share.
Maybe everybody's mind is blown. Another word that came out of the psychedelic movement of the 60s. Yeah, so do we have anything coming up, iAwake wise?
iAwake wise, well, we're working on several products right now. Our developers, it's all sort of coalescing at once. It's kind of interesting, but Joe Ko is working on a sleep program. So we're really excited to see what he's producing, and that'll go into beta when we get that. And then Nadia Lin has developed Workout Ecstasy 2, and that should be going into beta actually tomorrow.
It's really great.
And then we're working on a healing meditation theta album with incredible music. And that won't be out probably till June. And there's one other one. Oh, well, and then in a couple of weeks, we're going to be reintroducing iAwake Daily Neurohacks. It was called Digital Pills years ago, but it was sort of, we licensed it to somebody else, and we received the license back. So now we're going to introduce it to our group here. And it's some great tracks.
Yeah, I've been listening to them. Really amazing. It's like, wow, these are so cool.
Yeah. I'm really glad we've got it back, and that we're going to get to introduce it to everybody.
Excellent. Also, we're going to be doing we're going to be going to California at the end of this month and being there for maybe a couple of weeks. And we, a friend of ours has become a friend, is a German spiritual teacher by the name of Veit Lindau. And he has a website called Human Trust over in Germany. And they've done a really successful practicing community, you know, where they meditate, they work out, they work on their stuff, and thousands of people join this thing. And they have like boots on the ground groups all over German speaking world. And anyway, they contacted us. They knew iAwake, they were using it. They loved it. They wanted to, you know, release it or market or sell iAwake stuff in Germany, a German speaking world. And we said, yeah. And I had this moment of clarity, ding. And I went, well, you know, we really need a platform like you've developed for human trust in the United States. I just haven't really seen it happen yet. And so one thing led to another, and now it's happening. So we're going to be going through, and what it is, it's this big mega platform, and you have many different, like the United Tribes of Evolution, I think is the name of it. And so there'll be all kinds of teachers, you know, and people that have medicine, and I'm using medicine and the Native Americans have good stuff to give, healing, you know, life enhancing stuff. And so we'll all be in this platform. So you can, you know, if you guys came into there as an iAwake person, you know, we continue what we're doing, but then you'd have all these other great teachers, so you can go over there. And so instead of just being kind of isolated in our little individual website ghettos, it's really connecting. So there's been this huge kind of move with connection, bringing people together with spiritual technologies 2.0 and with the Trans Tech conferences. And we're just finding more and more colleagues and more people that are working toward the same thing, just helping us to clean up, wake up, grow up, and show up. Okay. Right now, because the world needs us to do that right now, not tomorrow. So anyway, we're going to be there, and we're going to meet a lot of really cool people, leaders in the consciousness movement in California. So I'm sure we'll do kind of like a video blog, or maybe we'll do these in a couple of weeks. We'll do this thing from the road or something, and it should be really, really interesting time. So we'll keep you posted with all of that. So I think we're just about nailed this thing, and about time to wrap it up. So yeah, so practice and do the work so you can live the authentic, happy life and get into these flow states where you're giving your essential gifts. You just step into that river of inspiration that's available to all of us if we do what we have to do. And another good thing about doing these kind of extended meditations, super good if you're depressed, okay? And speaking as a person who has suffered from deep life-crippling depression in the past, and when I was doing counseling, people would get depressed, and I said, well, look, go meditate, do this stuff for 2 hours and call me in the morning. And almost always it would begin to lift, or would lift. And not only would it lift, but they would be left with kind of an understanding and insight into what was going on. So Mo is Mo, but don't push yourself beyond what you're ready to do or where you're ready to go yet. So if you're kind of advanced or mid user, you might do that. And if you're doing 20 minutes, we'll ratchet it up to 40 minutes, because you'll start feeling the difference and you'll start finding what you're looking for. Yeah. So somebody said, what you're looking for, it's what's looking. So I will leave you with that non-dual thought. And anyway, thank you so much. And we'll hopefully, God willing, universe cooperating, we'll be here next week. And please keep the cards and letters coming. We really appreciate them. Or any questions, or if you're going through, really a rough time and you need to talk to me about anything, I'm here. I'm available for that also. So anyway, we love you guys. Namaste, and see you next time.